Prince Harry has long been considered the rebellious royal. And it seems that reputation is well founded, as private letters written by his mother, Princess Diana, appear to confirm.
Prince Harry has long been considered the rebellious royal, and it seems that reputation is well founded, as private letters written by his mother, Princess Diana, appear to confirm. Two princesses who were never close shared a secret letter. Princess Anne, always devoted to duty, and Princess Diana, guided by her emotions, were utterly different. Their distant relationship sparked endless rumors. But now, many years later, a private letter between them has surfaced. Why did Diana write to Anne? Was it a warning, a plea, or a secret the royal family wanted to keep hidden? Join us as we reveal the lost letter from Princess Diana to Princess Anne. Diana's confidential letter to Anne. It was a chilly morning in early 2024 in Essex, England, inside a grand auction house. Auctioneer James Parker's hands trembled as he carefully opened an old, dust-covered box. He had handled countless valuable items over the years, but nothing like this. Nestled among the papers inside were personal letters written by the late Princess Diana, heartfelt thank you notes, and messages filled with kindness. These were remarkable enough on their own, but one letter stood out, a sealed envelope addressed to Princess Anne. This letter had remained a mystery for over 26 years, hidden away in a private collection since Diana's tragic death in 1997. While many of her letters had been shared with the public, published in newspapers, or sold at auctions, this one had never been opened. The envelope, a delicate cream color, bore Diana's royal letterhead, and her elegant handwriting was still as clear as the day she wrote it. As news of the discovery spread, royal experts and historians rushed to Essex, eager to see this remarkable find. Among them was Dr. Sarah Matthews, a respected historian who had spent years studying Diana's correspondence. She immediately noticed something unusual. Unlike other letters that had faded ink and worn edges from frequent handling, this one was in pristine condition. It looked as though it had been sealed just yesterday. Adding to the intrigue was the letter's mysterious journey. It had passed through 3 different owners but had never been opened. The most recent owner, a retired banker named Thomas Henderson, had purchased it in 2001 from an anonymous source, someone who had once worked closely with the royal family. No one knew why it had been kept secret for so long. Experts examining the envelope made another startling discovery, a small red wax seal imprinted with Diana's personal crest. This was not the standard royal seal she typically used. Instead, it was a mark she reserved for only her most private and significant messages. Whatever was inside, it was clear that this letter carried immense importance. The contents of the letter were even more astonishing than its history. Diana had written it in early 1997, just months before her tragic accident in Paris. Unlike some of her other writings, which reflected frustration or sadness, this letter was calm, thoughtful, and filled with deep insight about the future of the royal family. She wrote about the inevitable changes she believed the monarchy would face, changes that, at the time, seemed unlikely but have now come true. Diana predicted that the royal family would have to adapt to modern times, that the media's influence would grow stronger, and that these forces could deeply affect her 2 young sons, William and Harry. But the most surprising part of the letter was Diana's unexpected request. She addressed it to Princess Anne, the one royal who had always kept a certain distance from her. Their relationship had never been particularly warm, but Diana's words showed deep respect and understanding. She acknowledged their differences but praised Anne's strength, loyalty, and unwavering dedication to the royal family. Then, she made a stunning appeal. If anything were to happen to her, she asked Anne to look after William and Harry. The timing of Diana's request makes it even more significant. In early 1997, she had been deeply involved in humanitarian work, particularly in the fight against landmines. That same year, she shocked the world by walking through a live minefield in Angola, a bold and dangerous act that made some powerful people very unhappy. Her letter suggests that she may have felt unsafe, yet she remained determined to continue her mission. Dr. James Bennett, another royal historian, was struck by how accurately Diana had foreseen the challenges facing the monarchy today. She had understood the delicate balance between preserving royal traditions and embracing modern expectations. She had recognized the constant battle between personal privacy and public duty. In many ways, she saw the future before it happened. The British royal family has not publicly commented on the letter. Their silence has only fueled speculation, while the palace remains quiet. Handwriting experts who have studied Diana's confirmed letters from 1997 say the handwriting, paper, and ink are a perfect match. For now, the letter is being carefully preserved in a secure room at the British Library, where experts continue to study its authenticity and significance. But one thing is clear. Its discovery has reignited discussions about Diana's legacy and her relationship with Princess Anne. Many had believed they were distant, but this letter suggests that, in the end, Diana placed her trust in Anne in a way no one had ever realized. This long-hidden letter is not just a piece of history. It is a window into Diana's mind in her final months. It reveals her thoughts on the royal family, her concerns for her sons, and the wisdom she had about the world she was leaving behind. More than 2 decades later, the monarchy still wrestles with the very issues she predicted, and her words remain as powerful as ever. As William and Harry take very different paths in life, Diana's final message lingers. Her urgent plea for the royal family to change, her quiet warning about the power of the press, and her remarkable insight into the future. But why did she feel it was so important to write to Anne? What else did she foresee? Let's find out. Diana's final letters. In the spring of 1997, something about Princess Diana changed, and those closest to her noticed it immediately. Her secretary saw a shift in her usual habits. Diana had always been careful and deliberate with her letters, but now she was writing more often. Her normally elegant and graceful handwriting appeared rushed, almost as if she felt she was running out of time. Ken Williams, a former royal protection officer who worked with Diana in her final months, recalled how uneasy she seemed. She often stayed up late into the night writing furiously. Sometimes, in the early morning, Williams would find her still sitting at her desk, surrounded by sealed letters. But these weren't her typical notes to friends or thank you letters to charities. These letters were serious, filled with warnings, secrets, and what felt like final instructions. Her trusted butler, Paul Burrell, received one of these letters, in which she spoke about dark forces surrounding her. "My name is Paul Burrell. I'm the former butler to Princess Diana and Duchess Elizabeth II. Burrell had a unique vantage point inside the royal household. He had worked for the Queen before, becoming Diana's butler, spending 2 decades within the palace walls." Another letter sent to her close friend, Lucia Flecha de Lima, contained chilling mentions of powerful people who wanted her to stay silent. HIV does not make people dangerous to know, so you can shake their hands and give them a hug. Heaven knows they need it. But the letter to Princess Anne was different. Written on her personal Kensington Palace stationery, it revealed a side of Diana few people knew, one that was calm, reflective, and almost prophetic. She wrote about the old traditions of the royal family crumbling, and how William and Harry would need the freedom to carve their own paths. Patrick Jefferson, Diana's private secretary from 1988 to 1996, later explained that Diana had been watching Anne for years. Despite their differences, Diana respected Anne's ability to remain true to herself while still fulfilling her royal duties. She admired something in Anne that many others overlooked. In her letter, Diana showed deep awareness of the challenges her sons would face. She wrote about the rigid royal expectations, the relentless media scrutiny, and the constant pressure to appear perfect. These weren't just the concerns of a loving mother. They were warnings from someone who had lived through it all. Lady Sarah McCorquodale, Diana's sister, later confirmed that Diana had expressed similar fears to her own family. She believed that whether the monarchy wanted it or not, change was coming, and she feared her sons would be caught in the middle of it all. What made this letter even more surprising was Diana's request. She didn't ask Anne for traditional protection. She asked for understanding. She wanted Anne to be there for William and Harry, to help them navigate royal life while allowing them to be themselves. It was an unusual request, but in many ways Anne, who had always carved her own path within the royal family, seemed like the perfect person. The letter also touched on Diana's humanitarian work. particularly her campaign against landmines. She wrote about her trips to Angola and Bosnia, describing how this work gave her a sense of purpose beyond being a princess. But she knew it had also made her a target. By stepping into political issues, she had angered powerful figures. Jenny Bond, a former BBC royal correspondent, later spoke about why this moment in Diana's life was so critical. One tour that stands out in my memory was our trip to Angola with Diana, Princess of Wales. In early 1997, Diana was at a crossroads. She had lost her royal title but had found something more valuable, her own voice. She was no longer just a princess, she was a global force for change. But with that influence came danger. In her letter to Anne, Diana confessed that she felt watched. She had noticed cars following her and strange silences during phone calls, yet she didn't sound afraid. Her words carried the tone of someone preparing, just in case. Diana's final words to Anne were not about fear or regret. She wrote with hope, hope that the family could evolve, hope that her sons could find happiness, hope that even the most distant relationships could grow stronger. She ended the letter not as a royal, but as a mother, placing her trust in someone she believed could help protect what mattered most, her boys. At the bottom of the letter, she added a short but powerful note, "Time will prove me right." Today, those words seem eerily accurate. William walks the tightrope between duty and personal freedom, while Harry has chosen to break away from tradition entirely. Diana saw it all coming, but the relationship between Diana and Anne had not always been easy. What led to the rift between these two powerful women, and how did a minor dispute at a royal christening alter their relationship forever? Let's take a closer look. Royal conflict between tradition and transformation in the grand and majestic halls of Buckingham Palace during the early 1980s. Two princesses lived side by side, but their lives and choices could not have been more different. Princess Anne, the Queen's only daughter, had long embraced her role within the royal family. She worked tirelessly, attending hundreds of official engagements every year, but unlike some of her royal relatives, she never sought the spotlight. Her days were packed with charity work, military events, and meetings with world leaders, important responsibilities, though not the kind that made headlines. Lady Pamela Hicks, a close family insider and cousin of Prince Philip, admired Anne's dedication. She recalled how Anne would wake up early, study important documents, and travel across Britain to fulfill her duties. Yet, Anne never expected praise. To her, duty was simply part of who she was. Then came Diana. The young Princess of Wales brought a fresh wave of warmth and emotion to the royal family. While Anne remained serious and devoted to tradition, Diana had an effortless charm that captivated the public. She connected with people in ways no royal had before, breaking protocol by hugging children, shedding tears in public, and openly showing affection. Former royal reporter James Milton observed how this shift changed everything. Suddenly, Anne's quiet dedication, like opening hospitals and visiting schools, was barely noticed. Instead, all eyes were on Diana. If she wore a new dress or changed her hairstyle, it made front-page news. Behind the royal smiles at official events, the tension between them quietly grew. In family photographs, Anne rarely stood near Diana, and their interactions remained distant. Their views on royal life were simply too different. Anne followed the old rule of staying silent and never explaining, even when facing personal difficulties like divorce. Diana, on the other hand, chose to speak openly about her struggles with mental health and eating disorders, making the royal family seem more human to the public. The real strain between them began in 1982 when Prince William was born. By royal tradition, Anne was expected to be his godmother, especially since Prince Charles had already been chosen as godfather to Anne's son, Peter. This would have been a symbolic act of trust, strengthening the family bond, but Diana had other plans. She broke with tradition, choosing friends who had shown her personal kindness rather than automatically selecting senior royal. The decision shocked the family, and Anne in particular took it as a personal slight. 2 years later, when Prince Harry was born, history repeated itself. Diana once again did not choose Anne as a godmother. Lady Susan Hussey, a close confidant of the Queen, later revealed how deeply this hurt Anne. To her, it wasn't just about being left out. It felt like Diana was rejecting everything Anne stood for: duty, tradition, and the royal way of life. Anne made her feelings known in a subtle but unmistakable way. On the day of Harry's baptism, instead of attending the ceremony, she opted to go on a hunting trip at her country estate. Her message was clear: if Diana could break with tradition, so could she. From that point on, the distance between them only grew. Anne became even more committed to her royal work, while Diana found her own voice and became increasingly independent. At family gatherings, they remained civil but distant. Despite their differences, they had one thing in common. They both wanted to be true to themselves in a world that expected royal women to be seen but not heard. They simply chose different ways to carve their own paths. While the public saw their rivalry play out in headlines and royal engagements, there was more to the story behind the palace walls. In the beginning, Diana struggled to navigate royal life, and perhaps, in another world, they might have been allies. But how did Anne's disregard for her influence the Diana that the world would later admire? Let's explore further. Diana's fight for recognition before she became the beloved people's princess, and before the heartbreak that followed. Diana Spencer was just a 19-year-old young woman stepping into a world filled with centuries-old traditions and unspoken rules. It was the summer of 1981, just weeks before she was set to marry Prince Charles. As she walked through the grand halls of Buckingham Palace, she was trying to understand the complex and rigid ways of royal life. Diana was determined to fit in. According to Marion Crawford, a former royal staff member, she spent countless hours perfecting her curtsy, practicing the right way to speak to different people, and studying royal protocols. She wanted to be accepted, to feel like she belonged. But no matter how much effort she put in, not everyone welcomed her warmly. At formal dinners, Diana tried to engage in polite conversation, using the carefully rehearsed words she had practiced. But Princess Anne, Charles's sister, barely responded, giving only short nods and keeping her focus on her plate. Anne's indifference stung more than outright criticism. Lady Elizabeth Anson, the Queen's cousin, noticed these moments. She once remarked that Diana had a way of lighting up a room, but near Anne, she seemed to shrink, as if the warmth inside her was slowly fading. It was like watching a flower close up in the cold. As time passed, the palace staff began to notice a change in Diana. The vibrant and carefree young woman became increasingly anxious before royal events. She would go over the rules again and again, desperate to avoid making a mistake. But no matter how hard she tried, Anne remained distant. One night in 1982, former royal chef Darren McGrady found Diana alone in the palace kitchen, silently crying. She whispered that she didn't understand what she had done wrong. As her marriage to Prince Charles began to fall apart, so did Diana's sense of security within the palace. The same towering walls that had witnessed generations of royal history now felt more like a prison. She struggled with an eating disorder, but when she sought help, she was met with silence. Royal correspondent Richard Kay once pointed out that the very design of the palace mirrored its emotional environment. Long, empty corridors, closed doors, and an unspoken rule that personal struggles must remain hidden. Showing vulnerability was seen as a weakness. Princess Anne's response to Diana's difficulties spoke volumes. When Diana missed events due to her battle with bulimia, Anne reportedly commented that illness should never interfere with duty. This starkly highlighted the difference between them. Anne believed in stoicism, staying strong and never complaining, while Diana was open about her emotions, unafraid to express her pain. By 1990, Diana had learned to survive in her own way. She found comfort in the company of junior staff, created small spaces where she could be herself, and even used royal rules to protect herself when needed. But it came at a cost. She later confided in friends that, in trying to adapt, she had lost pieces of who she truly was. Her cousin, Sarah Spencer, once revealed that Diana kept a diary during those early years. In its pages, Diana wrote that she often felt like an actress in a play where everyone else knew the script, except her. She didn't see Anne as an enemy, but rather as someone she had wished would guide her through the daunting royal world. For years, these untold stories remained hidden within the palace walls. But a newly discovered letter from Diana to Anne now sheds light on her final attempt to bridge the distance between them, a distance that had shaped both their lives in ways no one could have predicted. And in the years that followed, as Diana's sons grew up and forged their own paths, those same palace walls could no longer keep the truth of her struggles locked away. How many of Diana's warnings to Anne actually came true? And how did Anne respond to this realization? Let's find out. Diana's predictions back in 2024. Prince William and Prince Harry are living their lives in completely different ways. Just as their mother, Princess Diana, had predicted, royal watchers are astonished by how accurate her foresight was. A letter she wrote to Princess Anne in the final months of 1997 doesn't read like a desperate warning. Instead, it seems more like a carefully laid out roadmap for the future, one that has now unfolded exactly as she imagined. Margaret Wells, a former staff member who worked closely with both Diana and Anne, revealed an intriguing detail. She mentioned that Anne still keeps an old copy of the Times from August 1997 in her study at Gatcombe Park. The headline reads, "Diana calls for royal change." At the time, many dismissed Diana's words as an overreaction. But looking back, it's clear she saw things others did not. William, who is set to be king one day, has found a way to honor royal traditions while also embracing modernity. Like his mother, he married someone outside of the aristocracy, Catherine Middleton. Their approach to raising children reflects Diana's vision. Their kids attend regular schools, take part in everyday activities, and express affection openly rather than maintaining a stiff royal image. Even a future king can feel nervous on a school day, something Diana always wanted to be normal. Former Royal Protection Officer Graham Sterling recalls how Princess Anne quietly influenced William after Diana's passing. She never made public statements about it, but within the palace, she was known to defend William's more modern approach to royal duties during private family discussions. Harry's path, on the other hand, was drastically different. In 2020, he stepped away from royal life with Meghan Markle, shocking the monarchy. But Diana had already anticipated this in her letter to Anne. She wrote about the immense pressure of being a royal and suggested that one of her sons might eventually choose personal freedom over royal duty. Royal historian Dr. Eleanor Bradford explains that while many family members openly criticized Harry's decision, Anne remained silent. She neither supported nor condemned him, exactly the kind of response Diana had suggested in her letter. Diana also warned that if the monarchy didn't evolve with the times, it could lose relevance. Recent events seem to confirm her concerns. The world is changing, and the rigid traditions of the past don't always align with the expectations of modern society. Many within the palace acknowledge this shift. Interestingly, those who work closely with Princess Anne say she has subtly changed since Diana's passing. She remains dedicated and serious in her royal duties, but she has played a role in streamlining the monarchy, reducing the number of active royals, and giving the younger generation more freedom. These adjustments mirror the very changes Diana had hoped for. What do you think about Prince Diana's secret letter to Anne? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.